After the Interplanetary War ended in 2170, the population boom that followed and increasing signs of famine threatened great upheaval within the solar system. However, the invention of the Shore-Fujikawa Translight engine led to a period of rapid interstellar colonization known as the Domus Diaspora. One of the many colony ship designs bound for new worlds was the Phoenix class, an enormous vessel built for the transportation and support of colonists, terraforming equipment, and prefabricated buildings. Even the ship itself could be cannibalized for parts once basic infrastructure was completed. Long after the peak of the colonial era, at least one of these craft, the UNSC Spirit of Fire, was refit with armor and weaponry and redesignated as a support vessel. At 2.5 kilometers in length, the Phoenix class dwarfed many of its military contemporaries, and even included a tram system for the crew. As a transport ship, much of this size was due to the cavernous cargo hold in the core of the vessel, flanked by 8 transfer bays for the loading and offloading of various dropships. On the underside of the angled, wing-like structures were docking clamps for 10 D-20 Herons, much larger heavy-lift dropships built to carry and deploy prefabricated buildings. Within the lower part of the ship was a series of robotic assembly lines. During the colonial era, these produced the equipment and structures needed on the planet's surface, while the militarized version was loaded with the templates for almost any UNSC vehicle or prefab structure. However, these assembly lines were not sophisticated enough to rebuild complex components such as full-size slipspace engine reactors. The dorsal hump of the vessel contains the crew's recreation block, aeroponics farm, and one of the ship's power cores, with the bridge standing proud at the head of the ship. In the very lowest part of the craft was an observation deck, originally intended for colonial survey work. Aboard the Spirit of Fire, this place was taken over by Professor Ellen Anders for use as a workshop and laboratory. While the first incarnation of the class was unarmed, the UNSC refit added many weapons, foremost of which was the Mac battery located beneath the bridge. This consisted of 3 magnetic accelerator cannons and was supported by 10 coil gun batteries, a point defense system, and 24 Archer missile pods. While these could all be used in ship-to-ship warfare, the vessel was still just a converted civilian craft, so it lacked the staying power of a purpose-built warship. Due to this, the armament was primarily used for pinpoint strikes in support of forces on the ground, with the ship avoiding direct combat if possible. The craft also supported other UNSC ships in space, and with the smart AI coordinating, a single Phoenix could repair or refit up to a dozen different ships. Captain James Cutter commanded the refit Spirit of Fire through the Harvest campaign to retake the planet from the Covenant, as well as pursuing them to Arcadia, one of the outer colonies. Once there, Professor Ellen Anders was kidnapped and taken off-world. The crew of the Spirit of Fire gave chase, arriving at what turned out to be a flood-infested Forerunner shield world called Etran's Harborage. Concealed within the planet was a fleet of inactive Sojourner-class Forerunner dreadnoughts. The crew managed to rescue Professor Anders and stopped the Covenant gaining control of the fleet by detonating the slipspace drive reactor of the Spirit of Fire inside the artificial sun at the heart of the shield world. After barely escaping the explosion, they drifted for 28 years before being unexpectedly drawn through a slipspace portal to Installation 00, the extragalactic Forerunner megastructure that constructed the Halo rings. Preset instructions from the ship's AI, Serena, from before her self-termination, awoke the crew from their cryopods. After picking up an encrypted UNSC signal, they headed to the surface. Once there, they found both Isabel, a logistics AI, and Atriox, the leader of the mercenary organization known as the Banished. This led to a conflict across the surface of Installation 00 as the Spirit of Fire's marine contingent battled with the Banished, greatly disrupting their operations. After the death of Atriox's second-in-command, he moved to use his assault carrier Enduring Conviction to destroy the Spirit of Fire. As the 86-year-old Phoenix class would be hopelessly outgunned in such a battle, Isabel and the Spartan Jerome 092 infiltrated the carrier and gained control of its energy projector. She fired the weapon at a Banished camp on the surface of the installation, triggering its cohort of Sentinels to retaliate by decapitating the ship. After that, Professor Anders continued with her plan to use a freshly built Halo ring as an elaborate distress beacon, leaving Captain Cutter and the Spirit of Fire to contend with Atriox and the remainders of the Banished. The venerable Phoenix class carried humanity to the stars, and its versatile design continued to prove its utility as a support craft when war threatened the very colonies it had helped to create.